Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in this video I'm going to discuss yet again, I'm afraid, how Kemi Badenoch has decided to pose questions to Starmer that are more damaging for herself and her own party than they were for Labour. She's got all the bravado and confidence, but she has her own attack lines rebound on herself every time. She is nothing more than a paper tiger. But first, for daily political commentary, please hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. So, another PMQs, another case of Kemi Badenoch shooting herself in the foot. She does it so often these days that I'm surprised she's able to walk unaided. She chose to open up the questions today about pensions. Now, Labour's decision on WASPI compensation, which I discussed earlier, is certainly going to be a sore point for Labour. Based on past comments, it's doubtful that very many people, even at the top of Labour, certainly including Keir Starmer and Liz Kendall, really are proud of what they've done. And as for the wider parliamentary party, this is not something that I think many Labour MPs will swallow gladly. So, in theory, it's not a bad issue for an opposition leader to poke Starmer with. It is absolutely an issue which divides the Labour Party, and I strongly suspect even the Cabinet. So a classic case of the sort of line you would use against the government. But for Kemi Badenoch, actually did her more harm, particularly in the way she did it. So first of all, Badenoch was crowing about the fact that it shows Labour agrees with the Conservatives. And this is because the Conservatives also believe WASPI compensation shouldn't be paid. This is sort of why they didn't pay it, during their time in government. So, and it's their original policy anyway, right? It was their policy. So Badenoch gets no political capital from this attack because she can't say, oh, you've done this unpopular thing. We would do the opposite. Totally, yeah. Because any pensioner who would not vote for Labour again because of this decision will also not vote Conservative for the same reason, unless they're, stupid. But it's not like a line that's neutral to the Conservatives and damaging to Labour. It's also damaging to the Conservatives. Starmer was able to fire back that because of Labour's general economic policies, they were able to commit to the triple lock on pensions, whereas the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, has described it as unsustainable. So although Labour are upsetting a group of pensioners with this decision, Starmer was able to say that their approach allowed them to protect the integrity of the state pension for all pensioners. So by asking this question, Badenoch gets no credit amongst any group of voters, but has invited Starmer to remind all pensioners that the Conservatives are no longer committed to the triple lock, because this may be news to them. Badenoch then tried to argue back by saying, because of the number of pensioners eligible for pension credit, if they all signed up, it would wipe out the savings from the winter fuel allowance. This was an insane line to take. First of all, she's moved off the WASPI policy at this point, which is the only one that is uncomfortable for Labour, and she's actually attacking the fact that Labour are trying to give 1 million of the poorest pensioners thousands of pounds a year extra in return for taking £200 a year off wealthier pensioners. Only a Tory could think this was a good line to take, especially as it allowed Starmer to carry on talking about his support for the triple lock. So then Badenoch tries to say, we kept the triple lock, which isn't true, by the way. A few years ago, Rishi Sunak broke the triple lock whilst Chancellor. So it's not true that they maintained it throughout the last Parliament. I think Starmer should probably have pointed this out. Although his own line was effective anyway. He said again that the Shadow Chancellor has described the triple lock as unsustainable, which he did, and that Badenoch now seems to be committing to it. He then said that they should probably meet over a sandwich or a steak to sort it out. So now Starmer is able to ridicule Badenoch's latest attempt at a culture war, as well as spell out what she and her own Shadow Chancellor are at odds on in terms of an important economic policy. And it got no better from there either. Badenoch has yet again chosen to go with a line of questioning, which just ended up rebounding on herself. Like anyone watching that exchange, like if they didn't know already, they learned that the Conservatives also don't think the WASPI women should get compensation, that the triple lock would not be supported by the next Conservative government, and that Badenoch had spoken in favour of means testing the winter fuel allowance, because that came up. And in isolation, you would think that's a bad PMQs for Badenoch. But actually, it's average. They've all been like that. I think this was her 5th, maybe 6th PMQs, and they've all been this bad, in the same way as well. And I've said it before, it's not easy for her. The Tories made such a mess of things that they are weak on a lot of policy areas. So there are going to be some, in theory, good lines of attack you can use against Labour that the Tories can't use themselves. So they're going to have to be selective. But Badenoch's not being selective. It's like she's choosing her lines based purely on what Labour would find uncomfortable, without ever considering if it's even less comfortable for them. You know, if Badenoch was going to press the issue over the WASPI women, she should have done that. She had a chance on that one if she'd have stuck to it, instead of letting Starmer derail her with a more general discussion on pensions. She should have pressed the fact that Labour gave the impression of being supportive of the campaign before the election, only to turn after it. So that was her only line, the WASPI. Anything else to do with pensions she needed to steer clear of. And in every question, she could have come up with a quote. She could have come up with a quote from the past about what Keir Starmer had said about the WASPI system, or what Angela Rayner had said, or what Liz Kendall had said. If she'd done that, yes, she's still going to run the risk of Starmer exposing her own pension policies, which if pensioners in general found out about would not appreciate. But if she'd stuck to that line rigidly, she'd at least make it look like Starmer was trying to like smudge the issue and evade the question, right? You know, if she'd have just stuck to that line, as Starmer used to as leader of the opposition, sometimes people would say, sometimes I would say, oh, you're Boris Johnson or Rishi Sunak just said that thing, he should counter it. And yet he just kept sticking to a particular line, not getting distracted. She should have done that. She could then have at least made Labour look uncomfortable. But instead, she effectively agreed to play by Starmer's rules by going off topic on other pension-related issues. Utterly hopeless. Paper tiger. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for listening. And until next time, I'll see you later.